Epic reunion. The clouds turn themselves inside out as a blur of crackling light cuts through them like a hot blade. Prince David flies through the air faster than sound, creating thunderous sonic booms in his wake. Mountains crumble in the shadow of his wrath. Everything is amazingly clear to him now. His life, his mission, his destiny. It was as if he had to see his mother dead for God to unlock his ultimate plan for him. The earth beneath him shook and rolled as he passed overhead. Wildlife scurried away at his approach that charged the very air with energy. His rage is great and is almost uncontrollable, but the greater love within keeps his mind clear and focused on the task at hand. He couldn't fathom the pain and agony his mother was experiencing, but he knew that 1 second might as well be 1,000 years in torment in the belly of the devil. All would be made well soon and his mother's soul would be at rest. This he swore as he tore through the air, leaving a white trail of holy light in the daylight skies above. He wasn't sure what to expect as he approached the greatest kingdom in the whole world, but he knew he had to have an audience with the king. The smell of death was everywhere. The search for the princess was a campaign of horror and death. The demon nation spared no one and nothing, and it was taking its toll on the world. He had seen the capital city from 10,000 miles away, standing on the surface of the Red Sea. The majesty of it now growing larger each passing minute of him, defying nature itself. His keen hearing could hear the emergency alarms sounding far away in the kingdom walls. He is an uninvited guest in the greatest kingdom on earth. He made up in his mind not to harm any warrior of Nutbush. They are not his enemy. Finally he has arrived. He slows his approach to gaze upon the kingdom city. He is marveled beyond words. The buildings towered far above the towers of the Crimson City where he spent his entire life. The tops of the buildings were high in the air, and atop them sat the royal flags of Nutbush. At the center stood the royal palace in all its majesty and magnificence. It was the greatest fortress in all of the earth, with the greatest army and king of men. He could feel the soldiers of the Noonan royal city mobilizing against him. The number was many and their will was strong. He knew he had to make haste for their sake. The horns sound and the royal archers take position. The archers took aim and fired, and the sky began to go black from the massive volume of arrows in the air coming right for him. He screams in rage and his body's aura flames outward, and a strong wind circles about him, turning any arrow close to him to ashes. The citizens below gasp at what they had just witnessed and scurry to safety as the remaining arrows arch their way down toward the streets below. The archers unfazed fire another wave of arrows, and this time David just floats in the air and focuses. His body begins to glow as the avalanche of black death descends upon him. He closes his eyes and reaches out in the essence of the earth. The arrows are as feathers against his skin and bounce off of him and are sent sailing to the city grounds below. More of the merchants below all panic and run inside their tents to prevent accidental death by a rouge arrow. David surges forward so fast that the third wave of arrows get caught up twisting in the winds of his departure before turning to ash. The soldiers are now astonished. The arrows fired were blessed arrows designed to battle against evil beings. What manner of beast is this? David flips forward many times, turning into golden ball of light shooting downward toward the palace. He lands at the base of the palace gates like a bolt of lightning, shaking the ground, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. All that is seen are golden eyes piercing through the debris. At this point the royal guards are terrified and cry aloud, "Mercy, mercy! What manner of creature are you?" The guards shout. No one had ever infiltrated the Noonan capital city with such ease. Most of the soldiers had seen fairies fly, but no one had ever seen anything move that fast in the air and land with such force. Prince David stands up straight and his aura begins to fade with the debris, revealing the handsome brown warrior in all white with a diamond sword on his back and a diamond crown of thorns upon his head. The merchants and townspeople began to come out to see what the commotion was. Everyone was clambering to see the boy in white.
Fear me not. My name is Prince David Emmanuel, the only begotten son of the Virgin Princess Ariana, third of her name. I seek an audience with the king.
David boomed in a deep voice that would make his mother proud. The multitude that had gathered had heard him and gasped in unison. Son of Princess Ariana? Creature, are you mad? She has been exiled for 10 years. You are obviously full grown. The guards spat back. David reaches into his bag and pulls out the royal crown of Ariana and raises it into the air for the guards to see. Their eyes go wide in shock and disbelief, but it was indeed her crown. The battle crown of Queen Ariana I passed down to her granddaughter was unmistakable.
Let him in.
Echoed a deep voice from high above that could only be King Elnam himself. The massive palace doors open and the guards escort the young prince inside. Once again David was in awe of this place. Its high ceilings and artwork showcased the very best of Noonan ingenuity. craftsmanship and creativity. The floors were covered in silver and the stairs were marble. It was the most beautiful and grand palace on the planet, and just being inside it was considered a blessing. It seemed as if the stairs went all the way to heaven. The stairs spiraled upwards many stories into the air where the throne room resided. As they reached the top of the stairs, the massive doors to the throne room boasted the highest-ranking royal guards. 2 epic men of valor clothed in all red, wearing war masks. Each of these warriors were winners of countless battles and truly worthy of the position of the king's most personal guards. When one of the guards looked upon David's face, he instantly saw the resemblance to Princess Ariana, and he took off his mask and bowed. "My name is Ashik Alamed and I am the father of Lyle. My son loved your mother with all of his heart and gave his life for her." The soldier spoke with his head bowed. He himself could hardly believe that before him stood a man of only 10 years, but he had often listened to the dreams of the king. God often spoke through dreams, and Ashik believed that this meeting was destiny about to unfold.
"Surely your son's sacrifice was not in vain, my friend, for his vengeance is now mine,"
David said as he looked past them at the door, then began to open. The mighty golden doors opened with a slow cry of precious metals rubbing together. David walked through the doors. The throne room of the King of Kings was a sight to behold. The floors were made from a solid bed of emeralds. Golden statues of Queen Ariana 1 and 2 towered above. Each one was radiant and adorning in diamonds and rubies and emeralds. Both statues were holding a sword pointing to the middle above the throne. Along the walls were paintings from the greatest artists in all of the world. The paintings told the story of the history of Nutbush and its people. The palace was built around 6 enormous stone hinges set in place by angels as an ancient covenant to man. The stone pillars supported the very frame of the palace, which stood as the ultimate beacon of power and dominion of mankind in the lower earth realm. There was a long blue carpet stretching from the doors all the way to the base of the steps that led up to the throne itself. On the throne sat the man above all men. His dark muscled frame was fitting for a great king. The black locks of his hair now flowed down his back, and his beard was full of gray and black hair.
"Step forward into the light,"
the king commanded. David walked into the single beam of light that shot down from the ceiling, but still about 30 feet away from the throne. The king looked upon him and his eyes went wide as if seeing a ghost. Anyone who walked in his presence knew to bow, but this one does not. He looks closer and then stands to his feet. His muscled body always ready for battle. The guards began to mobilize in the shadows. If the king stands in his own throne room, it must mean the guest is either very important or very dangerous. He steps down from his throne and speaks again.
"Are you here to kill me?"
The king says.
"I've seen this moment in my dreams. I always knew you would come. I heard you say that you were the son of Ariana. Are you a demon seed? Did you kill her?"
he asked. David stood there staring at the floor as the memories of the fairies flooded his mind once more and fought against the rage inside him enough to speak calmly.
"My mother, Princess Ariana's body was killed by the Unan archangel Lucifer, and her soul lies in torment inside of him even this very hour,"
David says in a deep breath. The king collapsed back down in his seat as sorrow overtook him. He exiled his only daughter, and she was not only killed but her soul is also being tormented by the king of all evil. He clenched his fists in anger and shouted out with a loud voice,
"I will call forth all the armies of Nuna. North, south, east, and west will unite for the first time and vanquish the unholy vermin from the face of the earth."
The king belted in his rage. His blood boiled in anger and also in shame. The shame of his own arrogance to allow his daughter to be sent away.
"You will fail,"
David said calmly. The king looked puzzled.
"Who are you? Really?"
The king demanded. David raised his eyes, and the king could now see that his eyes were indeed golden, just like they were in the many dreams. David's body began to glow with a warm divine light, and a low crackle of sound could be heard in the air. The wind in the throne room began to swirl out of nowhere. Ashik and Caldwell, the other royal high guard, stood alert at the door, and instantly guards came out from both sides surrounding the king in a wall of protection. David spoke again, and this time his golden eyes began to glow with each word he spoke, and his voice was now that of many flowing waters.
"I am the one sent by the One. I am here to cleanse this world and usher in a new era. A new reality will be put in place of this one. Order needs to be established in this realm, and I alone will see it done. Such is the will of God,"
David uttered as his light began to fade. The kings, whose eyes were even more wide with what he had just witnessed, fell to his knees, and in turn his soldiers fell to their knees also. His daughter was right and he realized that he should have listened to her when he had the chance.
What do you need of me, O heavenly host?
The king asked.
I only need the weapon. I need the sword bearing the name of my mother and grandmother and great-grandmother that was forged in the great angelic war. The sword made from the Unan crown.
David said.
Take it and purge this world.
The king said humbly.
But what will happen to my people, my kingdom?
Those who fear and honor God and his ways and standards will be taken from this world to another place. The ones who serve the Black Third will be utterly destroyed. Such is the will of God.
David said as the sword of Ariana lifts into the air from its resting place behind the throne and drifts over to him. The king sees the sword in the air and is in awe again. That sword had won countless battles, but he could never fully overtake the demon armies. Now he knows why. It was never his place to do so. He wasn't worthy enough to do so. Here before him stands the one, son of his daughter and the son of God. The king bowed his head as the sword neared David's hand. As soon as the sword touched him, there was a blast of white light and energy in all directions, and the foundation of the palace shook. David began to glow once again. Some of the guards began to shield their eyes from the blinding light, and others just stood there in shock. There was a rushing wind that ran across the entire face of the earth, and the waters became restless once again. The diamond crown of thorns upon David's head lifted off of his hair and was suspended and spinning inches above his hair. David reached up and grabbed it and placed it in his bag where his mother's crown rested. Alnam suddenly stood to his feet and removed his crown and placed it upon the head of David. He then, for the first time during his rule as king, bowed to another man. Prince David was now King David. The royal guard of Nutbush also bowed to David, recognizing their new king of all kings.
You've done well, Master of Nuna. My mother's love for you never wavered. Make your peace with God, because the end of ages is now upon us. If you wish to call your men into battle, you may do so. But understand that this battle is not yours. It is mine. Farewell, and we shall meet again one day.
David utters last words to King Alnam, and he begins to float into the air towards the opening where the light beam comes in. Alnam and the royal guard stand in awe, watching David ascend higher into the air. A great rushing wind propels him further into the air. In that same moment, David now stands atop the palace looking towards the heavens.
It's time.
David says in a low voice that shakes the earth. His mother's tormented soul cries out, and he can hear her with all his senses. The cup of their wrath shall be poured upon the earth this day. The harvest has begun. The war is now.